They are enemies, just like India. These were not the words of an ordinary social media troll. They came from Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Asif. And the people he was describing as enemies were not soldiers standing at Pakistan's border with India. They were not members of a foreign army. They were residents of Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the people protesting against Pakistan's rule, its repression, and its attempts to control their political future. So here's what Khwaja Asif said. I put the protesters of Azad Kashmir in the same category as India and consider them also an enemy just like India. This statement came as Pakistani security forces were using lethal force against protesters across Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Reports from the region have proved that civilians had been shot, bodies had been removed from the streets, hospitals had been overwhelmed, and communication networks had been blocked. Casualty figures differ between reports. NDTV says that at least 32 protesters have been killed in just 2 days and that more than 90 deaths have been reported since the unrest began on June 5. But beyond the disputed numbers, one question must be asked. If Pakistan claims that the people of this occupied territory belong to it, why is its defense minister calling them enemies? And why has a region which Pakistan describes as Azad, means free, has been placed under internet shutdown, road blockages, arrest and armed security operations? Namaste, I am Sonam Singh and this is Organiser. Today we examine what is happening in Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, why people there are protesting, how Pakistan has responded and why their defense minister is calling and exposing the reality of Pakistan's illegal occupation. Pakistan, our dear neighbor, has spent decades presenting itself as a supporter of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Its leaders routinely claim that Pakistan speaks for Kashmiris. But when Kashmiris living under Pakistan's own occupation protested against Islamabad, Pakistan's defense minister placed them in the same category as an enemy country. Khwaja Asif refused to treat the demonstrators as aggrieved citizens. Instead, he described them as enemies and defended the crackdown against them, all the killings. That one statement raises a fundamental contradiction. Pakistan wants the world to believe that it is the protector of Kashmiris, but when the residents of Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir ask for political rights, economic justice or freedom from Islamabad's interference, they are branded traitors, militants or agents of India. Their protests are criminalized, their leadership is banned and force is being used to silence them. The contradiction is even more glaring because Pakistan has no legal sovereignty over the territory. India's position has remained consistent that the entire territory of the erstwhile princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, including Pakistan-occupied J&K and Gilgit-Baltistan, is an integral part of India. Pakistan has remained in illegal occupation of parts of Jammu and Kashmir since its invasion in 1947. It may have created administrative structures, conducted elections and installed local governments, but occupation cannot be converted into sovereignty through political theatre. Well, to understand today's unrest, we must return to 1947. At the time of independence, Jammu and Kashmir was a princely state ruled by Maharaja Hari Singh. In October 1947, a Pakistani armed-backed invader entered the state. The invasion was accompanied by killings, looting and violence. As the attackers advanced towards Srinagar, Maharaja Hari Singh signed the Instrument of Accession to India. The accession was accepted by India, making Jammu and Kashmir legally part of Bharat. Indian forces were then sent to defend the territory, but by then the conflict was halted. Pakistan had occupied a substantial part of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan later divided the occupied territory into two units. One part is what it calls Azad Jammu and Kashmir, the other is Gilgit-Baltistan. India refers to the entire area as Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. See, the terminology is very important. The territory was not freely transferred to Pakistan, it was always occupied through aggression. And the political system subsequently imposed there has remained subordinate to Pakistan's central establishment. Pakistan describes the occupied territory as autonomous, but its political arrangements tells a very different story. The government functioning in Muzaffarabad does not exercise the same powers as a normal sovereign administration. Pakistan retains decisive influence over defense, foreign policy, security, finances, and major political decisions. Political participation has also been shaped by loyalty requirements. The political framework has historically restricted those who question accession to Pakistan or advocate complete independence from both India and Pakistan. So, in other words, residents may participate in the system only within the boundaries approved by Islamabad. They can debate which leader should administer the occupied territory, but questioning Pakistan's control itself can invite repression. And this is the reality behind Pakistan's use of the word Azad. Political freedom exists only as long it does not challenge Pakistan's authority. The latest unrest did not appear overnight. For years, residents of Pakistan-occupied J&K have complained about high electricity tariffs, shortages of essential commodities, inflation, unemployment, taxation, and Islamabad's control over local resources. The Joint Awami Action Committee, commonly known as JAAC, emerged as an important platform representing several of these grievances. The movement organized protests over issues including electricity, subsidies, economic hardship, and political representation. More recently, the agitation became linked to the election process and the structure of the Legislative Assembly. One major demand concerned seats reserved for refugees from Jammu and Kashmir who are currently living in Pakistan. Protesters say that these seats allow Pakistan's political establishment to influence the composition of the legislature from outside the occupied territory. According to reports, the demonstrators demanded reforms and the removal of these disputed seats ahead of the elections. The question was not merely administrative, it went to the heart of who controls the occupied region. Do local residents decide their own political future, or can Islamabad manipulate the system by controlling seats, candidates, parties, and even the institutions? When protesters challenged that arrangement, Pakistan did not treat the matter as a democratic disagreement. The JAAC was banned, leaders were arrested, and the movement was labeled a security threat. For several weeks, parts of Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir remained completely cut off through internet restrictions and road closures. Residents even reported that the communication blackout disrupted the education, business, medical services, and access to any kind of information. An internet shutdown is not simply a technical inconvenience. During a security crackdown, it can prevent families from locating missing relatives. It can stop journalists from transmitting evidence. It can restrict the circulation of videos showing firing or arrest. It can make it nearly impossible to establish the true number of people killed and injured. And it allows the state to control the narrative. And this is the one reason why casualty figures from Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir vary so widely. The region was not freely accessible to any reporters. Communications were restricted. Hospitals were placed under pressure. The communication blackout itself raises a very serious question. If Pakistan's security operation was lawful and proportionate, why prevent the world from seeing it? Well, by July 27 and 28, the situation had deteriorated sharply. Videos circulating online show how security personnel were firing at the protesters as they were running through the streets. Other footage showed motorcycles lying abandoned and bodies reportedly being moved into official vehicles. The Joint Awami Action Committee accused Pakistani forces of firing on crowds in Mirpur, Rawalkot, and other locations. Even The Guardian has reported that at least 30 protesters have been killed over 2 days. Among those killed was Usman Nazir, the younger brother of JAAC founding member Umar Nazir. The JAAC says that Pakistani forces continued shelling and firing on what it is described as peaceful gatherings. It accused the state of sowing hatred among people who had already suffered political and economic neglect for years. Even as the crackdown continued, Pakistan moved ahead with elections in the occupied territory. The elections are being conducted in phases through August 10. Pakistan projected the process as proof of democracy. India rejected that claim. On July 28, the Ministry of External Affairs described the Pakistan's organized elections as a cosmetic exercise intended to camouflage Pakistan's illegal occupation. India has reiterated that the entire Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh are very much integral part of India and that Pakistan has no right whatsoever to conduct elections in Indian territory under its illegal occupation. The timing made Pakistan democratic claims even more questionable. Can an election be considered genuinely free when political organizers are arrested? Can it be called representative when a major protest movement has been banned? Can people vote freely under an internet blackout and security lockdown? And can an occupying power claim legitimacy by conducting elections under structures it has designed and it is controlling? And this is why India called the process cosmetic. Elections alone do not create democracy. Democracy requires freedom of speech, political choice, an independent press, transparent institutions, and the right to protest without being shot or by branded an enemy. India has repeatedly said that unrest in Pakistan's occupied Jammu and Kashmir is the consequence of Pakistan's own policies. During earlier protests in May 2024, the Ministry of External Affairs had said that people in the occupied territory were suffering because their resources were being exploited and they were being denied their rightful benefits. In its response to the latest developments, India has completely rejected Pakistan's attempt to blame New Delhi. The MEA described such allegation as an effort to divert attention from Pakistan's own human rights record, economic exploitation and governance failures in the occupied territory. India's broader position is even clearer. Any discussion concerning Jammu and Kashmir must address when Pakistan will vacate the Indian territory it illegally occupies. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and MEA officials have repeatedly maintained that the outstanding issue is the vacation of Pakistan's illegal occupation of parts of J&K. Well, Khwaja Asif's remarks strengthen India's argument. The Pakistan Defense Minister has drawn a line between the Pakistani state and the people living under its occupation. By calling protesters enemies, he has inadvertently acknowledged that they are not treated as an equal participants in Pakistan political system. They are treated as a population to be controlled. The anger in Pakistan-occupied J&K is also rooted in economics. The region has rich water and hydropower resources, yet residents have repeatedly complained that electricity generated from the rivers does not translate into affordable power for local households. They have questioned why a resource-rich region suffers from expensive electricity, load shedding and inadequate development. Protest movements have demanded subsidized flour, reduced electricity tariffs, and a fairer distribution of revenue. These demands expose the colonial nature of Pakistan administration. Islamabad completely benefits politically and strategically from controlling the territory. Pakistan's institutions use it to sustain an international narrative on Kashmir, but residents say that their own economic needs are being neglected. And when people start protesting this arrangement, Pakistan accuses them of disloyalty. See, the crisis is not just about money or election, it is also about identity and political agency. Pakistan has tried to present the occupied region as naturally and permanently aligned with Islamabad, but has done nothing about it. For years, Pakistan has attempted to internationalize Jammu and Kashmir. Its leaders keep on speak about human rights at global forums. Its diplomats demand international intervention, but when serious allegations emerge from Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Islamabad blocks communication and restricts scrutiny. Civil society organizations have now demanded an independent investigation into the killings. Amnesty International and United Nations representatives have even called for impartial inquiries and the restoration of communication networks. Kashmiri activists are coming out and protesting outside Pakistan consulate in Bradford in the United Kingdom, condemning the killings and demanding justice for civilians. Yet the response from many international campaigners who routinely speak about Kashmir has remained limited. Why is there no sustained global campaign for the people of Mirpur and Rawalkot? Why are internet shutdowns in Pakistan-occupied J&K not given the same attention by New York Times? Why are Pakistan military establishment and political leaders are not being asked to explain why demonstrators were called enemies? Human rights cannot be selective. They cannot depend on whether an allegation is politically useful against India. If the international community truly cares about Kashmiris, it must also examine what Pakistan has done in the territory it has illegally occupied since 1947. Well, the words by Khwaja Asif, they are enemies like India, they represent more than the anger of one minister. They reveal the mindset of an occupying state. Under that mindset, loyalty is very much compulsory and dissent is treason. Political demands are conspiracies and protesters are terrorists. The civilians can be placed in the same category as a foreign enemy. Pakistan calls the territory Azad but does not allow people to freely determine its political status. It holds elections but controls the constitutional framework. It claims to represent Kashmiris but fires upon those who challenge its authority. It speaks of self determination internationally but suppresses political movements within the territory it occupies. It calls them its people when speaking to the world, but calls them enemies when they demand their rights. Unrest in PoJK is not an isolated law and order incident. It is the result of a deeper political contradiction that Pakistan has avoided confronting for nearly 8 decades. Pakistan occupied some parts of J&K through aggression in 1947 and then created institutions designed to give that occupation an appearance of legitimacy. But beneath those institutions lies a system in which Islamabad and Pakistan's security establishment retain decisive power. The latest protests have challenged that very system. Residents are now asking who controls their resources, who chooses their representatives, who decides their political future, and why must they remain silent when their rights are violated? Pakistan's answer has included arrest, internet shutdowns, road blockages, firings, and the branding of protesters as enemy, but none of the answers the above question. The exact number of dead must be established through an independent and transparent investigation. Those responsible for unlawful killings must be held accountable. Communication networks must be restored. The detained must be given due process, and the world must stop ignoring abuses merely because they occur in territory controlled by Pakistan. Thank you for watching.